Welcome, pudding people, to another episode of Everybody Loves Pudding. I am your host, Ken Seymour. I have an exciting episode for you today. As always, we absolutely love to cover anything to do with live theater, and I have two individuals with me today by the name of Jess Wood and Rachael Murray, who are involved with a fascinating new play out and about on the scene called The Best Punk Band in Conway, Missouri. Thank you so much, both of you, for coming on the show today.
Yay, thanks for having us, Ken.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I'm super excited. I'm a big fan of any type of theater, and I have to admit, I haven't gotten out to as much of it in the last couple of years. I can't think of a good reason why that didn't happen.
Yeah, I wonder why.
I don't know. But in looking at the two of you and your histories, just it struck me as very interesting. You both come from very different backgrounds, and that always makes for some fun dynamics. And I wanted to start specifically with Jess, because I am an absolute fan of theater, but I'm also an absolute fan of stand-up comedy. And with you being a comedian, that fits right into my wheelhouse. And I wondered, how did you get into comedy, and how is that transitioning into live theater?
Well, thanks for asking, Ken. I had an actress mom growing up in LA, in Hollywood, California, and she did theater every summer at a place called Padua Hills Playwrights Festival, which, if you're a really deep diver of theater stuff, it's gnarly. It's like Marie Irene Fornes and Sam Shepard and all these pretty intense people. So I kind of grew up with that as a kid, but then I really rebelled pretty hard because it was a wild upbringing, and I was a punk. I was a full-on punk rocker. I hung out with gang members. Like, I was like wild in the streets, running. And I came to New York as a high school dropout, and I got immediately hooked on heroin because I was really excited how easy it was to get in the 90s in the Lower East Side. And I, unfortunately, as heroin does, lost all the stuff and then really was bad off. And I ended up getting a job at the comic strip, which, as you know, as a fan of comedy, the Comic Strip Live, Upper East Side, New York City. And they, at least in the 90s, would hire really anyone to waitress there. And I was a fan of comedy like yourself. And I thought, you know what, I like comics. I like comedy. Let me go and try to get a job. So long story longer, I met a comic there who really kind of took a liking to me. I mean, sure, wink, wink, but also he saw something funny about me. And because I grew up with gang members and crazy people, I often did their characters as in life. I kind of would fool around with people and do characters to them. And this was a particular guy, and getting high on heroin didn't stop me from doing characters, trust me. And so he really saw something in me, and he brought me downtown to Lower East Side, and he helped me get clean, and he took me and put me in a show that he did, and he made me write a joke. And when I wrote that joke and I did that joke to the live audience and they gave me that laughter, forget it. It was like my Jesus moment for real, because it took me completely by surprise. And I thought, oh my God, all the comics I knew were doing it backwards. They were starting comedy, then they got on heroin. I was like, hey guys, you're doing it wrong. Like, this stuff saves. Comedy saves, you know? So really, that was how I got. And then I went to a comedy club, and they were having a contest. I couldn't find how to get on stage. I didn't really know how to do it. And they were having a contest at New York Comedy Club, and it was the best amateur African-American comedy contest. And I thought to myself, you know what? If I go and they tell me to leave, I totally get it. But if they let me stay and perform, let's see what happens. And Ken, when I tell you I won 4 times in a row, and all of a sudden I was considered like an urban comic. And so with my background and all the characters and the stories, and because it's all real, the audiences really loved me and embraced me so much. And I couldn't ask for a better kind of introduction to stand up in that way. That community is the best, just loving and giving and wonderful. And let me tell you something, when you're up there doing characters, everybody goes, hey, you're an actor. And then you get all these jobs and you go, oh my God, I was trying to rebel from my mother, the actor, and I can't rebel. And so here I am being my real punk self in a show in New York City. Gratitude like crazy.
I like it. Now,
Thank you.
Now, Rachel, because of her background and being in a position of directing her, do you kind of let her be her funny self, or do you say no, the words in the script, this is what it says, you got to do this?
I mean, no one can stop Jess from being her funny self, but it's interesting. This role, I wouldn't say is like written as like a comedic character in any way. It's very kind of self-reflective by the very nature of the form of storytelling, because it's an oral history. It's kind of based on interviews with these people and kind of their recalling how they felt in different moments in their lives. And so it's been a really interesting kind of coming to the material together. And Jess, you know, as a writer, comes with so many ideas and perspectives of like how, you know, dramaturgically, what the arc of the character might be. And so that's been really helpful, I think, to Kirby, the playwright, in doing rewrites of the script. So it's been great.
Well, you specifically, Rachel, from everything I've seen, you've worn a lot of hats between writing, directing, and producing, everything else. I had to ask one specific thing. I get comedy. Sure. I've seen a lot of that, but an intimacy director, that is something that maybe the listeners may not know so much about. What is that, and how does that apply to what you do?
Yeah, so I think it's probably more established as the role of intimacy coordinator in film and TV, but still, I think, relatively new as a formalized position in the last maybe 5 to 10 years. And I think still in theater, kind of trying to figure out what how the role kind of interacts with, you know, kind of the time-honored production schedule. And so I kind of came to the work because, I mean, truthfully, the theater industry is kind of set up in a very hierarchical way. And as a director, you know, I was kind of moving through that and figuring out, you know, because actors are trained to be, you know, do whatever you want. And a lot of times I much prefer having a dialogue and getting a true collaboration and more of a lateral relationship. And so that was kind of like always in the back of my mind of like how to kind of, by trial and error as a director, create less of a hierarchy and more of a group collaboration. And when I took an intimacy workshop back in maybe 2018, 2019, it was before the pandemic, I know that. Just so they sort of pointed out day one, this sort of like training that actors get. And so when you're in the context of an intimate scene, is it really consensual if, you know, you don't have any power in the room? And that really clicked with me and crystallized a lot of like those thoughts that I had of like why that relationship just sort of on day one is sort of in the zeitgeist. And so that kind of got me hooked in learning more and about consent-based work, about trauma-informed work. And so since then, I've done a lot of study. I was not the intimacy director on this show because it's a little bit of a conflict of interest as the director. But yeah, I've started to do it more and more in the last couple of years. And I think it's important work. So
it seems like it could be very interesting in the sense that a lot of times some power dynamics are very clear, and others, depending upon how the individuals approach it, they may not even realize that they're in a position where they're exerting influence over others.
Sure.
And
it can be unintentional. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just kind of it's really interesting to have something that can allow people to see what they do from a different perspective and maybe enhance things because of that. Now, I expect that in Jess's experience in stand-up comedy, it's less about that and more about keeping unruly drunks in line.
I wish I wish I could tell you anything was good about the behind the scenes. We have no HR, we have no security for the comics, we have no, as a female comic, especially coming up in the 90s, it was, I mean, listen, I've seen Louis' penis. Okay. I'm just going to say it. I've seen other men's penis. I don't, not willingly, but I'm one of those women who's like, put that away, you moron. I kind of was raised with a loudness to me that people don't tend to want to take advantage too much. So, but yeah, Ken, it's, oh my, comedy for women still, it's a little funky,
Yeah, and one of the things that I thought about is just like I said, just seeing this dynamic between looking at the history of one person and then seeing how that might apply to another. I kind of wonder, and this is going to be a question I have for both of you. In your individual fields, you're always going to have people that you look up to, people that have inspired you to do what you do. But my question is not only who maybe are some of those people, but who have you had a chance in the industry so far to work with that has maybe giving you a glimpse of insight that you kind of still hold with you that's really excellent today? We'll start with you, Jess. What about you?
Oh gosh. Let's see. Influences are Mae West, because Mae West was always in charge of her own writing. She was her own character when she developed it on stage in vaudeville and became this Hollywood legend, and was fine into her later years. Hello, boys, come up and see me. And Richard Pryor, on account of his honestness, the truthfulness, honesty, and characters. And who I've worked with. Well, I'm very blessed to say that I worked with David Mamet. I got to tell you that I did the Phil Spector movie, and I had one scene one day on set, but the scene is I put a fake gun in my mouth, and it's very intense. I often get hired to do pretty dramatic stuff, even though I'm a yuck a minute, you can tell. But I have some depth in there because of all this stuff. But David Mamet was tricked into thinking that I was really hurt on the set because my acting, and he was real impressed, and that just blew my whole mind. And I will always bring that up if anyone asks.
What about you, Rachel? Who are some of the people that really inspired you to go in to do what you do, and who have you met that's really kind of shared something that's stayed with you to this day?
I was thinking as Jess was speaking, and maybe it's just because we've been so hyper focused together for the last month and a half, or month. Oh my God, it's only been a month. Yeah. This cast and Kirby's play has just been like all I've been thinking about for the last month, and I've been really moved by a lot of moments together, and I think this cast inspires me. It's been great.
Nice.
It's true, dude. We are like a family. Like, I call it punk rock camp because, like, I don't know, it's like instantly we were all like, yay! And we get to play music together, we get to sing together, we get to dance together, we get to cry together. Like, I mean, I'm not giving anything away, we don't really cry, but you know what I mean? Like, it's a real gnarly kind of take you on a whole situation journey. It's not just something you go and see usually at the theater. It's for real. Like, it reminds me of the old, like I say, Padua Hills. If y'all can look that up, it's so intense. John Stepling, like, really wild ride, but really everyone can relate. None of us are from the same place. We couldn't be more different, a lot of us, but we are so bonded on these real moments that are life moments that are, it's amazing. It's been amazing.
Now, does this bonding also stretch into the realm of musical taste? Because I've known a lot of people that are very into music, and specifically the subgenre of punk. Those that are into that will be the first to point out posers. So I've known a lot of them. So what would you say your musical taste are you fans of punk? Are you who would be your pick as a favorite punk band?
Oh my gosh.
I can't breathe. Oh my God.
Yeah, I think we should throw it to you, Jess.
Oh my God. Okay, I know why you're saying this.
Yeah.
We had a
Yeah,
day where there is a mosh pit in the show. So we had a day where the folks in the cast, not me, but the other folks had never, maybe, well, a couple of them, but most had not been in a mosh pit. So we watched some video and we talked about it, and then some people did some moshing, and and then someone asked me, it was Kirby or Rachel, "Hey Jess, what'd you think?" As the punk leader in the room, "What'd you think?" And I just took a pause and I looked at everyone and I said, "I think you're all a bunch of fucking posers." Sorry, excuse me.
Well, sometimes that's going to happen. You have to start them off, start them off easy. It's like, I can see that you aren't ready for this. We're going to start you with some light Green Day. And I want you to work. They knew the Green Day. And now we're going to work back. We're going to give you some Black Flag. We're going to give you some Ramones, maybe some Dead Kennedy, back to the Clash, get into the whole mindset so that you're ready. And then you'll have a whole group of people that are the only ones in theater that all have spike mohawks and platform steel-toed boots.
Everyone wears a band t-shirt, like at least one or two people. I don't know if I don't think it's conscious. I think we just have these shirts. Like Rachel will often have a Dylan, or like, someone will have a Misfits and then a U2 and a Metallica. And like, I wore a Pink Floyd shirt the other day, and one of the guys goes, "Ooh, Pink Floyd." And he made a face. And I go, "What do you mean face? What's the face?" And he goes, "The kids with the other kids with the Pink Floyd shirts. Ooh, a little." And I said, "Hey man, that was my crew. What's up?"
There's a difference when a 13-year-old wears a Pink Floyd shirt and somebody that maybe grew up listening to it wears it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but we're all, because we're the Gen X crew. There's like the Gen Xers and there's the 20-somethings, because there are younger selves in the play. So the Gen Xers, we're often what the kids call gatekeeping, because if a kid wears like a Cramps t-shirt, we're like, "Hey, do you know that album, or are you just wearing the shirt?"
Yeah.
Throw them for a loop. Wear something just out of the ordinary. It's like, bring up some like stiff little fingers and they'll go, "The Who?"
Yeah.
It's just like nothing. Okay. Well, I've got a question that stems off of that then. You perform music in the production, Rachel.
Mm-hmm.
I know in most plays, there is so much going on behind the scenes in order to get from scene to scene, to get things set, to get everything going. How does having an actual performance involved as part of the whole thing affect the show? And what do you have to keep your mind on to make sure this is going to go smoothly?
Yeah, well, that's been actually kind of challenging, because we're in New York City and Up Theater Company doesn't have its own building. So you can't exactly lug a drum kit around on the subway. So it's been really interesting to have to kind of rent a music studio space to have to practice the songs full out. And we haven't really, I think yesterday, maybe a little bit on Friday, was the first time we had the amp set up with the electric guitar and the drum kit and the mic, and we're able to kind of run it in the context of the scene full out. And so it's been a challenge for sure, and trying to kind of hold that in mind as we're in that cramped little recording studio rehearsing. And but that said, we did that last scene the other day, Jess, and we were, things are moving. There's a platform that moves. There's a set piece that moves. There's a scene before it, and they did it in one, and it was fantastic. I cried. It was great.
Yeah, it's very moving.
Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff moving, but it's also moving your soul.
So who gets to play what?
In the show?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
so
what instruments? Who's playing what? Who's the drummer? Who's the bassist? Who is the person that's screaming into the microphone?
Well, Jess is definitely the one with the mic, as well as Zuzu, who plays the younger version of Jess's character, and we have Devin Romero on drums, and the older version of his character is played by Jason Guy, and then we have Henry Temple and Kirk White that both play guitar. No bass in this punk band, only drums and guitar. So
like Metallica in certain parts.
Oh, they're gonna love that. I can't wait to tell them that.
Yeah.
Small jokes here and there. That's all I really have.
And just to go back to your previous question, I actually did not at all in any way grow up listening to punk.
No?
I actually didn't like it very much at first. I got to be honest, in doing research, but that's actually kind of why I love theater. I like the anthropological kind of research aspect and kind of getting to know other worlds and other people's tastes and passions. And so, but that being said, I started sort of looking into the origins of punk and got really into Death, which is a proto-punk band out of Detroit, I think. And I'm into it. I like what they were doing a lot. And I kind of have grown a soft spot for some of the stuff that I've listened to over the process. So
I love it.
Well,
I love it.
Our musical director, Phil rocks. And he is like so rocking. When he came in and was like, the Minor Threat song, he was like, rah, rah, rah. And I was like, yeah. And I just was so excited. And so I think the songs that he's put together are so digestible for the audiences. It's not like you're gonna come in and be like, oh my God, man, turn it down. You're actually gonna feel like, yo, like I could like a little, it's groove. I feel like it takes a lot from the groove of it, like Minor Threat, kind of bad brainsy. It's very mixed of, if you're into punk rock, you'll be like, hey, you'll notice there's different parts of different bands, right, Rach?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So approaching it from a vocalist standpoint, just thinking, and I've had limited experience in theater and never had to sing anything. So I've taken direction in terms of, you need to stand there, you need to speak this way. What is something in terms of the actual musical performance? Have you received any direction from Rachael? It's like, yeah, I like the way that you're singing that, but can you be sweeter? Can it sound more folksy? anything,
I don't think that's ever been a direction in this play.
No.
It's quite the opposite. No, because first of all, let me just say how generous Rachael is as a director, and the collaboration has been unbelievable, and the generosity and the checking in with us, and it helps keep everyone really happy and as a fam, like I said. But the music, now I'm just all choked up. Having to sing, she lets us be who we are, and it really comes out. I have sung in cover bands before throughout my life, and I've always had a really great time. And I think because of the comedy stand-up that I do, there's I automatically am just so comfortable. I mean, I love acting, I love being on stage, but then when I grab that mic, man, it's like I'm all of a sudden, I'm just like, I'm in front of my punk rock fans. It's just instant. And I think Zuzu, if I'm not mistaken, she very much feels the same. She has a very natural, and every song is different, and there's a different vibe to it, and there's a different way that it's sung, and it's really it's a beautiful thing to watch, man.
Yeah, we have joked, but we're not really joking, that they should all form a band after the show is over, because they're all so good. They don't need any direction. They know what they're doing.
If nothing else, it's a great way to kill an afternoon playing music, and it sticks with you, and it's just kind of a wonderful thing. Now, this play is not presented in, for those of our listeners that are maybe not theater files, is not presented in a prototypical scene by scene kind of procession over time. This is jumping around quite a bit, going from current day to past memories. What kind of effects do you think that will have on the viewer? What are you hoping that this will accomplish? What impact, what resonance do you think it's going to have? What do you think, Rachel?
Well, when I first read this play, it's inspired by oral histories that Kirby had read, and I hadn't really read oral histories before, but I definitely had seen some behind the musics, and that's sort of like very much what it reminded me of is the documentary style, and sort of learning behind the scenes what happened with this band. And I think what it accomplishes really well is it captures how memory works, and how with distance and time, your perspective on an event can change and grow, and how those experiences and being able to retell each other those experiences kind of make us who we are. And so I think it does that really beautifully. And it also provides really fun and exciting and also scary, sometimes as a director, chaos on stage. And so that's been a fun challenge to try to make it make sense, but also to not lose the fun of like the audience having to kind of do some work and follow you and bounce back and forth between locations and times and characters, and sometimes all in the same scene. And so I think it's a really unique experience in that way as well.
Are there challenges that gives you as a performer that you maybe were not expecting, Jess?
Yes. Yes. It's the way that it's spoken in around. Is that how it is? Like
Yeah.
It's like learning a song with people, but it's a script. And so it's been, if the beats aren't right, if someone falls out of rhythm, or tug of war, if someone falls off your side, or but it's beautifully layered and stacked. So you also everyone's telling their own story. So the skip around stuff is like, oh, I get it. It's that guy now telling what happened with him and his perspective of this, and her perspective of this, and yada, yada. It's, it's a challenge, but it's so beautiful. And I'll tell you what's even more beautiful are the other actors going, hey man, let's meet up a little early and do some more work. Like, just to want to work all the time on it. It's amazing. It's beautiful.
So of the other actors involved, who would you say is the most excitable? Because I heard there's one girl that has like 20 parts and she's just all over the place. The Simone person, I don't know. She's just awesome.
Oh, Sam she's the best. She's our resident Blue Meanie. I won't reveal who that character is, but I think the name is enticing enough. Sam I've known for a little while now, and I've worked with a couple times, and she's always a bright light and a ball of adrenaline, to quote the play.
Yeah, she's really fun. And she's really talented, as well as Lisa and HT and Dev. And it's so amazing. Everybody does so many different things. It's really fun to watch.
So for those of us that are not in the New York area, that are going to be outside the realm of being able to see this, I want to create kind of a visual as if they could be there. Is this play intended for a smaller kind of like a black box theater kind of performance, or is it intended for a larger kind of auditorium style thing?
That's an interesting question. If I read this play and didn't know where it was being produced, I would assume it was in a black box kind of space, or maybe even in the round or something like that. But we have the opportunity to do it in a church, in a historic church. And it looks very much like a historic church. And I think it's kind of cool because there are some kind of, in my opinion, religious experiences that our lead Presley has with finding punk music and finding her community. And I think that's a really cool sort of meta thing we get to play with a little bit. I don't know. What do you think, Jess?
Arenas all the way, baby. Woo! Stadiums.
Well, now there's
The opposite of CBGBs.
there's an interesting question on its own, though, too, because you said that you had difficulty finding places to do the practice, but it's important to get the feel of the audio. A church is going to have way different acoustics. Have you been able to actually perform there and get the feel for the environment and kind of get how it's going to go?
Yeah, not very briefly, but we have. And actually, I think the acoustics are way better than I expected, Jess. I think I was expecting it, knock on wood, but expecting it to be a little more challenging in terms of the actors being able to hear themselves and things like that. But it seemed to work well. Am I speaking out of school?
No, this is right on. And also, you think about it, they have a big old organ next to the thing. There was a piano there. I'm thinking about choirs being in there. There's kids around. I mean, it fits really well. Like, it's kind of funny because all of us were like, this is going to be in a church. At first you kind of go, before you get to the space, and then you get there and you go, oh my God, this, and no pun intended, this is for real. It's wild, man.
Yeah, I've always thought anytime I've been in a church, that's always the same thing goes through my mind. It's like, I would just absolutely love to have a very loud amp and some distortion pedals and just see what happens. So Jess, playing the same character as another person that's playing the younger version of that character, what is the dynamic like between you and Zuzu to try and have you tried to set up kind of together mannerisms to reflect how you both behave as the same person?
I can't even tell you. I know I keep saying, oh, it's magical, it's so amazing. I know I keep using words like that, my friend Ken, but listen to me. When I tell you that these folks here cast this show, you cannot believe that this girl is my younger son. We do the same little scritchy scratchy on our head in the back. We stand the same. We scowl the same. We have the same kind of bird. Dang, she might be a little rough around the whoa. We are very much the same. It's frightening. She had brunette hair down to her booty, and then she cut it all off and bleached it, and now we look the same. So don't tell me there's no such thing as magic.
Oh, so this was intentional then, Rachel. You were the grand orchestrator. You knew all this all along, and it was just being able to see into the future. You can claim divine knowledge.
Yeah, well, I mean, we spent a lot of time casting, and people say it, but it's very true. Casting is like 90% of the job. I think getting the right people together in the room together is, it sounds a little woo-woo, but it's kind of like a magical, divine thing, and finding the right people that are gonna kind of click together. And so I am happy that it's worked out as it has, and the group of folks we have are meant to play these roles.
All right, so now something a little more general. I always like to just kind of, as a person that watches the play, we get to see the finished product. We get to enjoy the work that's done at the very end of it. But there are a lot of little moving pieces that make sure that this actually happens. So what I would love to know is, in the production process, in putting this whole thing together for each of you, starting with Rachel, what has been your most favorite challenge and how it has been resolved to be the way that you want it to be in the production process, or not?
My favorite challenge has been it's like taking a scene in which we jump to 5 different locations, and everyone is playing 20 different characters. It feels like, anyway, it may not be 20, maybe it's 5, but and making that happen. And that's basically the challenge of this script, but like that challenge of like, how am I going to make this work is why I direct. It's like, it's the most fun when I don't understand how it's going to happen. That's the most exciting thing for me. And I would say also just sort of the actors in this kind of build the scenes for us in terms of furniture, in terms of props that come in and out, in terms of costume piece changes. And so we were seeing all that. And it's been a really, I know it's been challenging for them, and I've so appreciated like their patience in trying to keep straight all the characters and all of the stuff that they're holding on to at the same time to create these worlds for us in front of us, as they're jumping through time and space and all of that. So
I love it. What about you, Jess? What's been your favorite challenge thus far?
Well, I know Rachel knows this. It's kind of been, because this is an oral history of mine, I don't want to give away anything, but I'm kind of looming. I'm a looming presence. And where to put the loom, where do you place the loomer? And so because we were in a different space, then we were then we were rehearsing, and now we're in the space in the church. Then even being in the space at the first time, it was very challenging. But because again, Rachel's so giving and open to dialogue, I was able to kind of process the space and the character and say my piece and say, what if we had her doing this? Because I feel a bit detached, or I feel a bit like, or I'm in it, but I'm not in it. And there were these things, and I was able to be free enough to talk it out and to actually experiment each time we were in the space. And there was enough room for me to do those things. And now I must tell you, and I know Rachel feels like this, I'm certain she does, it's so beautiful. It's so, again, I'm using these words, but it's like this, you would have never thought this. You wouldn't have come in and given this direction. I don't think it's very linear, what we're doing. It's quite nonlinear. And my particular lumation of it all is again like a presence where you go, gosh, this is a lot of presence, but what do we do with it? And we've found it, and it's so comforting and feels like this is exactly where I needed to be in order to do this job.
Well, I gotta say, it sounds like it will be something that will be a lot of fun to experience if our listeners are close enough to be able to have the opportunity to see this. When and where are they going to be able to do so, and how will they get tickets?
We open Wednesday, May 3rd, and run through May 20th, Wednesday through Saturdays at the Fort Washington Collegiate Church in Washington Heights. And they can go to uptheater.org, and that's theater with an ER, uptheater.org, and find more information about tickets.
That's awesome. Now, specifically, if our listeners are anything like I am, I tend to follow people from production to production. Just if I tend to like what they do, I want to know what they're going to do next. So we should definitely have a way, if they want to know exactly what the two of you are doing, how would they follow you? Jess, do you have a website that you use? Do you have social media? How would people follow your career?
Thank you. I'm all over social media. My my tags are Get Wood because my last name is Wood and I am a comedian and also but Get Wood on Instagram, Get Wood on TikTok. Yeah, Get Wood Facebook. I do a weekly podcast called Get Wood. It's just about my week and about some news stories, some subway fun, some reviews of media things. I don't know. A lot of times these days I'm talking about the process, and what comes up actually as a human when you're doing this kind of work with an acting job like this, where you're processing dreams, hopes, losses, wins, it's a lot. And I like to talk about it with my listeners.
I love it. And what about you, Rachael? How would we follow your next directing projects or your next productions that you're going to be involved with?
I'm mostly on Instagram at Rachael_Murray. And that's Rachael, Rachael. You could also see my website at rachelwithanamurray.com.
I love it. Now, there's always one question that we, or actually there's two questions that we ask. And one is very general and I know is going to be easy, but then the other one is going to be a little more specific. And I have no idea where you guys are going to go with this. So we're going to end this with these two questions.
Boy.
So we're going with the easy one first. Our podcast is about a couple different things. And one of them is about the things that bring us together. And one of the biggest things that bring us together is food. So we love to know, are you pizza people? And if you are, what kind of pizza people are you? Are you the Chicago deep dish kind of person? Are you New York thin slice? I understand due to your geographic location, you might be yelled at if you don't give certain answers. But what about you, Rachael?
I love a New York dollar slice. But I have a controversial opinion on pizza, and that is I love any kind of Hawaiian pizza. Pineapple for sure belongs on pizza. I'll stand by that.
You see, this is why we're meant to work together. Do you see this? I get so much crap for my pineapple love. Come on. I like a pineapple with pepperoni though. Mix it up. Yes. I was raised vegan, so I love pizza. Yeah, pizza.
I love it. So, all right. So you've answered these one. Now for the final question, the hardest of the show. The other thing that we talk about more than anything else is the intersection of comic strips, comic books, and other media. Now, your play has nothing to do with this, but I'm still going to ask this question. And if you are familiar with comic books, and it's going to be a slightly different version for each one of you. For Jess, it'll be, if you had the chance to play any comic strip or comic book character, who would it be? And then Rachael will be, if you had the chance to direct a film based on one of these characters, what would it be?
Should I just go?
Yeah, just go.
Okay. If I was to play a comic, oh man. Well, of course, it seems like I would say Jessica Rabbit because my name's Jessica, and she's hot and she's like in charge. I enjoy that. But I don't know if we want to go way back in the crates for this one. If I was a dude, I would want to play Fritz the cat.
Nice. I think that's the first time I've heard that one. I love it.
Thank you.
What about you, Rachael?
Wonder Woman. I mean, I know it's already the job's already taken, but man, I grew up watching the 70s show as a kid, and I loved it. So.
Oh no, they're redoing the DC universe, so it's going to be a whole new kettle of fish, and I'm sure Wonder Woman's going to get reboot just like several of the others. So you might have a chance. Put the hat in put the name in the hat in the ring, their ring on the finger. I'm not sure. Well, I want to thank you both so much for sharing your time with me. And I have to say that this play sounds like it's just so much fun, and anybody that is in the New York area should definitely make their way out to see it at the beginning of May. Just remember, the best punk band in Conway, Missouri. And anytime you have something else you ever are involved with, we would love to have you come back on the show and talk about it.
Thanks.
Thank you. I love that.
Thank you.